I don't feel comfortable sparring with this certain person. Is it okay to not spar with certain people at the school? Spar, aka roll. And that is the question for this week's question of the week at Semper Fortis Jiu Jitsu. I am Saad al-Aziz, the owner and head instructor of Semper Fortis Jiu Jitsu here in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm going to tackle this week's question of the week. So the question comes from one of the students. It was actually some banter going back and forth on our message board about not sparring. In most martial arts call it sparring. Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, we call it rolling. But whether they don't spar or roll with, spazzy white belts or certain individuals. And, so the question was, hey, is that okay not to spar with certain people? And it's going to differ from school to school. So the answer I'm going to give you is the right answer for my school, Semper Fortis Jiu Jitsu. And it may be different at the school that you're at, wherever you're at. At my school, it's absolutely okay to be selective with who you spar with. And for a variety of reasons. One reason might be, you have some beef with a person. You got some ongoing, animosity. And I would encourage you, if there is some conflict between you and another person, that you don't spar, when we do open mat or during class. Like, you just don't spar with them. And because that sparring might evolve into something more intense than a sparring. It may turn into a fight. So I would suggest don't spar with people that you're having some animosity with. Also, sometimes you got me, I turned 55 in a couple months. I have to be selective with my sparring partners. If it's a 300-pound spazzy white belt, I may not roll with them that day. I may be like, you can roll with one of the other black belts or, one of my brown belts or purple belts or, because not only am I more vulnerable to injuries at 55, but it takes me so much longer to heal. So sometimes, depending on how my body feels, it's like, I'm either not rolling at all today, or I'm gonna be selective on who I do roll with. Sometimes people come in here and they're not comfortable with rolling with members of different genders. And that's cool. It's, if your body, you don't feel comfortable rolling with a certain person, don't roll with them. Other cases would be like, like you roll with a person and, they always have a stinky gi. If they always have a stinky gi, please tell me, because I will talk to them. And you're like, I just don't want to deal with the stink. Don't roll with them. Or, you roll with a person and they, you feel like, man, I'm on the verge of being injured every time I roll with them. Maybe they hold on submissions too long, or whatever the situation is, you think they're doing hazardous stuff, and, you're like, man, I'm just not going to roll with you. And that's cool with me. Like I said, different schools are going to have different procedures. And one of the reasons that I do my school this way is I teach 1 hour of instruction, and then after the 1 hour of instruction, I do open mat. And that open mat is so that people who are injured or are not rolling that day have the opportunity, to learn jiu-jitsu, but go home. Also, it gives you the opportunity to be selective of who your training partners are. And I originally came up with this idea because I would have people who were victims of domestic violence and also victims of sexual assault that would come and be my students. And so I did not want to ever identify these victims that, oh no, they don't roll with members of the opposite gender because of this situation. I would never want to identify the person. So I don't have people, I don't assign people to roll. You get to pick your own partner that you're going to spar with. And you decide whether you are going to spar or whether you're not going to spar, or you're only going to spar with these certain individuals. And sometimes people will spar, they'll be sparring an hour after class ends on the open mat. And then some people, they don't spar at all, or sometimes, maybe they spar 3 or 4 rounds and then they pick up their stuff and go home. And then, that's all good. So I say all that to say that in my book, it's absolutely okay to be selective with who you roll with. It's your body, your comfort level. You shouldn't do something that you don't feel comfortable doing. Now, if you want to get better at jiu-jitsu, you have to do more sparring. It's invaluable to your growth. But you got to listen to your body, and everybody's body's different. Like a 20-year-old's body may allow them to spar at lunch class, in evening class, 6 days a week, where a 50-year-old's body or a 60-year-old's body may only allow them to spar 1 or 2 classes a week. And so we're all in different places. And so the standard isn't going to be the 20-year-old's body, and the standard isn't going to be the 60-year-old's body or the 70-year-old's body. It's everybody determines what their own standard is as their comfort level for sparring. So I say all that to say, I think it's absolutely okay to be selective with who you spar. Now, my goal as the owner of the school is I try to spar with every single one of my students when I'm not injured. But I don't expect everybody to go by my personal standard. So if you're not comfortable sparring with a certain individual, it's absolutely okay not to spar with them. So that's my answer to this week's question of the week. Got a question for next week, feel free to fire below, and or if you got any insights as to your thoughts on being selective with who you spar with, feel free to make your comments. All right, have a great day, and ciao.